past that. But what we have here is just some really great tips to keep in mind. Even seven days before Thanksgiving, a good thing is to order your turkey. You know, we're going to be going into our turkey demonstration here soon, but I know that sometimes a lot of places will run out of fresh turkeys if you want to get a fresh one. And some great places to get a fresh one are Hawker's Meat. Hawker's in Ocean View, they have some fresh turkeys, or Hickman's Meat Market, and that's down on Route 1 in Rehoboth. They have some fresh turkeys. Those I know you want to pre-order. They do sell fast. And then Parsons Farms will have some fresh turkeys. Otherwise, if you don't do that, we do have Harris Teeter that has some great turkeys. They're frozen, so you want to keep that in mind when buying a frozen turkey. Also on this list here is some fun things to remember, you know, making the playlist, getting out the games if you're having family in town. So, you know, just go through the checklist, but most importantly, 4 days out, you want to make sure if you buy a frozen turkey that is out, is in the fridge, to thaw properly and is ready for you when you need to brine it or roast it. And then if you flip over the back, another thing is to think about your beverages. You always have to have your wine, and make sure you get your wine. My wine of choice for my Thanksgiving is always a rosé because I think it pairs with everything.
Can you get in?
Also, you have to, you know, get the beers or the mixers for everybody else. And then one day before, you really want to be your own sous chef. And that's what I want to talk, or with each recipe, we're going to go into what you can do ahead of time. So you are more prepared, you are relaxed on the day of, and you can just start early and it's a breeze. For me, I do a lot of my prepping or cooking or cutting all my vegetables the day before. So that morning, all I have to do is worry about putting it in the oven, doing the last final touches, and watching some football and drinking wine. So, you know, I hope that at the end of this, if you are cooking dinner, that you'll be able to have your Thanksgiving, not spend the whole time in the kitchen. So the first thing I want to talk about is the turkey, because that's always the game, the most important. Okay, so here I have a 14-pound turkey, and with this turkey, I brined it, and you'll see in the packet we have a recipe for a brine, an apple cider and ginger brine. I pulled this out yesterday, so it sat in the refrigerator uncovered, and you can see it kind of dried out a little bit from the brine, and that's really what you're looking for. So it will be nice and moist on the inside. It retains the salt too, so the salt and the sugar will really flavor it. The apple cider, the fresh ginger, and if you want, you know, throw some more citrus in there. But you really want to make sure it's dried out. So that's what I have here, a 14-pound turkey. And
Carolyn, can I ask a question really fast?
yes.
How do you decide on what size turkey to buy?
Okay, that's a great question. So what I do is about 1 pound per person. Okay, and that makes sure that I have leftovers. That's all I want to make sure is that I have leftovers by the time it's all said and done, because I don't think there's anything better than a Thanksgiving sandwich the next day. So I go about 1 pound per person, depending on how many people you have. And also, if you have a lot of people coming, I do 2 separate turkeys instead of having one massive turkey. I feel that takes way too long to cook, so I always get 2 smaller turkeys. And then you have more dark meat and more white meat, so it always ends up to be better. Good question, Carol. Okay, so I have the turkey here. I took out the neck and the gizzards, which we will save for our gravy. I put those off to the side. Okay, and since it has all those flavors from the brining, what I'm gonna do is, you can see here, is just kind of hold it up. This turkey, I put it back together, the legs back inside itself. And I'm just gonna put a little bit of salt and pepper inside the cavity. And then I don't stuff the turkey with normal stuffing. I just like to kind of flavor it from the inside out even more. So I have an orange that I cut small, cut smaller, and then a lemon here as well that I cut, an onion, and slowly alternate those. Sage, rosemary, and thyme. They don't have to be chopped up, but I'm just putting some more flavors in there. So I'm just gonna put those in there. More onion.
Do you typically like to use a lot of onion with your turkey?
Well, almost everything, the reoccurring theme is onion. Onion goes in, I think, everything that you cook. From sauces to stocks to green bean casseroles to stuffing, onion. There's a lot of onion in here. Okay, so I'm gonna put as much as I can in there. And that's just all flavoring it. We're not gonna eat that. That's just so it just so all the flavors will go from the inside out. Okay, now that it's stuffed in there, we have a very important part for the turkey, which I'm gonna move to a cutting board because this part gets a little messy. We are going to take softened butter, which I just put a little bit of salt and pepper. Get my gloves. This is messy. Should I put these on first? Okay. And this is optional. You do not have to do this step, but I really think that it keeps the turkey very moist. I'm gonna move this over. And what I want to do is I'm going to take the skin that's here, and I'm just going to slowly kind of separate it without breaking it. Okay. I'll take this guy out. I have a thermometer, so you can keep him in or keep that in if you want, but usually when that goes up, the turkey is overcooked. So I like just to use a thermometer so I can take it out at 155 degrees. So I'm just trying to separate that, so when I put this butter underneath the skin, it's going to just get very moist. So I grind it. Yes, it's
very interesting. I've never seen, I don't think I've ever seen that.
Yeah.
Because usually people will put the butter right on the top instead of doing what you're doing.
Yeah, well, the butter on top, because butter has a low burning point. So if you put the butter on the top, it will burn faster. So then you'll have to eventually end up covering your turkey, and you don't want to cover your turkey because then it won't be crispy. Your skin won't be crispy. So I got as much as I could in there. I'm going to take my butter. Are you okay?
Yeah. We have some people coming in.
Okay, this would be weird to come in.
So
I'm just putting the butter underneath the skin. You got it all underneath there. If you do this step and you brine it and all that stuff, you will have a very, very moist turkey.
Carolyn, can you just quickly review? I know, just for the couple people that have just entered into the room, can you just review again, like what you stuffed the turkey with? Because we did just start for everybody so they know.
Oh yeah, of course. So inside the turkey, I have oranges cut up about this size, and then I also have onion cut up, and then lots of sage, rosemary, and thyme, just fresh herbs. That's all shoved in there, so it's gonna just season it from the outside in.
Perfect.
Okay, and then what I did was I put the butter underneath the skin. There you go. And next, I have my trusty thermometer. Next, here. Sorry if I'm out of the shot. So next what I'm gonna do is get it ready for the oven. I'm gonna put my wings here and just kind of fold them back so it cooks more evenly. Like I said, the legs kind of attach themselves. There's a hole here in the skin. So you make a hole in this in the skin and then you put it right in there. And the reason why you're doing that is to keep the whole bird really together, it cooks evenly. And I'm always thinking about the gravy at the end. So I don't use a regular wrap. What I do is I take celery, carrots, and then onion and make a nice wrap for the turkey to sit on while it cooks. And then this, at the end, when the turkey is done, we're just gonna make that into gravy. And because I brined it, I don't have to season the outside because there's a lot of salt on it. So I just want to take a little bit of the olive oil. Just a little bit, not a lot. Rub that in. Okay, and then into the oven it goes. So, but before you put it in the oven, you also want to make sure that at this point it is at room temperature, which if you did all that work in cutting, it will be at room temperature. This is something that you can do ahead of time. Like you can have the turkey already stuffed. You can have the butter underneath the skin. You can have it in this pan, ready to go. So when you wake up in the morning, you pull it out about 30 minutes before you put it in the oven, and you can just pop it right in there. So you don't even have to worry about that. Or if you're doing it ahead of time, that morning, the biggest thing is it has to be room temperature before you put it in the oven. It will help with the evenness of the cooking, and also when you put a cold protein into a hot oven, it tends to seize up a little bit. So if it's room temperature, it'll be really even softer. So we have, I start the oven at 400 degrees, and I'll cook it at 400 degrees for 30 minutes. And then I'm gonna turn it down after 30 minutes to 300 degrees. And turkey this size takes about 12 to 15 minutes per pound at 350 degrees. So I like to say it's 10 minutes for 300 degrees, and it should take about 3 hours to cook this turkey.
And you don't need to cover that?
Nope, it will turn beautiful brown because you started hot, so it's like searing in the juices, and then you're turning it down so it's slow roast. Okay, into the oven it goes. And like I said, because it is brined, that is why I did not salt it on the outside. And sometimes you do have to be careful with the turkeys you buy in the store. Sometimes they say saline or solution. So if you are going to brine it, make sure you do not buy one that has a saline solution, because then it's already brined for you. Okay, so this is our TV magic. And this is what your turkey will look like.
Yay!
And this was the turkey, the same preparation earlier. So once the turkey is done and you put it in your meat thermometer and it comes out at 155 degrees, you're gonna wanna let it rest. You're gonna wanna let it rest so it carries over those next like 7 degrees. And also it will be easier to cut, and then all the juices will redistribute back into itself. So this one,
how long do you usually typically let it rest for?
At my house, I let it rest for an hour. Okay. Because at that time, I'm putting hot gravy on it, and also am going to take the thing, and while it's resting, put just a piece of foil on it so it stays warm. It's gonna stay warm for quite a while, but I just want it really nice, so a nice temperature so I can carve it. And also it's and have that time in the oven. Because you all know you have the stuffing in there, you have the green bean casserole, you have the sweet potatoes, all that stuff needs to fit in the oven. And I don't have two, so I pull that out and then all my sides go in. So I'm actually going to take this turkey and we are going to carve it. Because I know that's always the biggest question. How to carve. So for me, I'm going to put this over here on the side because that is going to make some really amazing gravy right there. So that the mirepoix that's in there, we're gonna brown that up. Got all those juices from, I was basting it a couple times throughout the couple hours while it was in there. So that is gonna make some great gravy. And if you could smell this, which you will on Thanksgiving,
It's amazing.
So good. It did take a lot of me not to eat this already. You know when you're done and the turkey comes out and you're trying to pick off a little bit? That was me all today.
It's the crispy skin.
Yes. So, I hope everybody can see very well. So what we're going to do when you're carving is, I'm going to take this wing off. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm just going to
From the joint here. You can see it will have a joint, so it'll just pop right off. And that's going to go in my pan for my gravy. It's all about the gravy, you know. The turkey is only as good as the gravy. Okay, that's going in with the gravy. The next part, what I want to do is take off the legs. See, you hear that? I don't know, did you hear that? That's like crispy. Okay, so you can see that this leg will just pop right out because they're on a joint. So I'm going to go in here. Oh, look, some crispy. Sorry. So everything kind of detaches at a joint. So it's very easy. Okay, I'm going to put that on my platter. I'm going to decorate it a little bit with some more fresh herbs. I'm going to turn it around. Even though I let this rest for a good amount of time, it's still oozing juices. Is that? Okay. So there's the joint. See the joint?
Carolyn, while you're cutting that, can you just tell us maybe some really great meals that you used to like to cook when you were a kid or used to have when you were a kid? Over the holidays, especially, like something that you were looking forward to?
Always Thanksgiving. Like I said, it's my favorite. And my grandmother was not a really good cook, but she knew how to cook Thanksgiving really well. So, but that was about it. So from here, I'm going to take the rest of this leg off. Okay, I'm going to do this side first because I feel like it'd be a little easier. And then we'll go back. And this is all good meat right in here. I'll take that off.
Oh, the rest of the leg.
Okay.
What?
And then you'll just keep going along and carving the turkey like that. But I know the breast is one of the hard parts. So right down the middle of the breast is the sternum. So we're going to take that and we're going to go right down the middle, which right down there.
I didn't know.
Oh, that looks so good.
And we can take this. Now we can see the joint. Go right along the joint.
You make that look very, very easy.
A sharp knife.
I would mess that up.
Okay, and then the same thing over here. I'm just gonna go, I don't know, I can't do it left-handed, so.
Maybe I can go up there.
Yeah.
Or I can do it further around.
Okay.
No,
No?
no, your arm's
Okay.
away.
Sorry, my arm's in the way. Here, how about that? So I just did the same thing and took that off that one side. Okay? Then, from this point, you can, depending on how many people you have, you take this and just shred it for all the good stuff for the soup that you're gonna make the next day or the sandwiches. I'm gonna try to get a little bit more of this leg meat off, which there's no pretty way to get the leg meat off. So pop it from the joint and then pull it around from there. Okay. But, so we're gonna take that and I'm gonna carve all this meat off. But before I do that, I'm gonna take the turkey and I'm just gonna slice it.
Slicing it that way.
And this I'm just using a regular chef knife for. So, and no. Okay.
Not cutting it this way. Do I?
Okay, I'm gonna move this off to the side so you can see more of what I'm doing.
The other breast.
And then I'm gonna take the and just present it on the board.
Oh. So, well, I just learned something about it.
And you can cut this smaller, or you go right down the center, but most people like a nice. Sorry. Those juices. There you go. And then that's how you carve the breast off and you can present it really nicely. Okay. Anybody have any questions so far on the turkey? How long it took to cook? What kind to buy? Nope. Okay. So now I'm gonna actually go wash my hands really, really fast, and then we're gonna talk about our gravy. But while I'm washing my hands, I'm gonna have Carol.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. I'm gonna have Carol come in on the shot here.
Gosh,
We're
I'm
gonna,
not properly looking right.
yeah. No, you're gonna bring the camera.
Oh, good.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so you come in on the stove here, and you can take that same pan that you roasted in and do it right on the stove like this. You don't have to transfer it. So I put in the neck. I'm gonna put in the gizzards. Okay. Get those in there. I'm gonna make an even better sauce.
What's this? What is that?
We can hear it sizzling.
Yes. Awesome. And then you're just gonna let that brown a little bit.
Did she say salt?
Then we'll shake the pan. But while that's going, I'm gonna go wash my hands.
And then we do have a question when you come up.
Yes.
Can everyone hear that sizzle?
Oh, that looks good. Sorry. Okay.
So we did have someone ask if you like fresh or frozen turkey.
For me, it doesn't matter. Here we actually get free turkeys from the Peninsula as an employee, so I eat that one, and then there's a frozen turkey, but it's always great. It's a really nice perk we have here. So. Okay, so that's browning. But for the rest of the ingredients for our gravy, which there's a recipe in your packet. We have a couple other ingredients. Okay, so I have a little bit of butter, some flour for our roux, which this will make a roux. One of my ingredients, a secret ingredient, is apple cider, which we'll finish. And then also I have some chopped parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme, and a bay leaf, and some extra parsley at the very, very, very end to finish it, and turkey stock. So when you go shopping for all of your ingredients, you want to make sure that you can get some turkey stock, which I've found out that when you get closer to Thanksgiving, is the less they have the turkey stock and you get chicken stock, which chicken stock will do the job, but the turkey stock will make a much better gravy. So this in your pan. That's gonna start to caramelize and get brown. And if you don't want to do this in your pan or you use the tin foil pan, you can put this into a regular pot, like a regular pot. That will be fine. So
And what temperature, you usually have that on high?
Yes, I have it on high because I was trying to get some of that sear on those gizzards and on the neck so they can really get some more caramelization or a nice Maillard reaction to the gravy.
I'm gonna come a little bit closer just so they can see.
Yes.
Good. Good.
Yes, that's turning really nice and brown so far.
It smells amazing, everyone.
I'm gonna start to get a little bit of my stock hot. I made lots of stuff. At this point, you can deglaze with some white wine or some red wine if you want, but I like to put in the apple cider. Okay, so I'm gonna do a little apple cider in here to deglaze. I'm gonna put the butter in.
Jeez, look at that butter there.
Oh, what's that?
And the gravy.
Oh,
Do you just only do a little bit of butter at a time?
No, I didn't need all the butter.
Okay.
You can tell by how much fat that you have in the pan too. So.
Someone did just ask why you didn't put the gizzards in with turkey.
Why didn't I put the gizzard in the turkey?
With the turkey.
Oh, with the turkey? Because I like to save them for the gravy. They give a little bit more earthy, or they give a little bit more flavor to the gravy than because I have the brine and all the citrus and everything else inside the turkey already. And it's full of flavor, so you know the turkey is always topped off by the gravy. So that's why I feel I put them in there. Great question. So now that I have the butter melted, and I still have all that fat, I'm just gonna make a little bit of a roux here. That's gonna thicken it. We'll thicken it. We're gonna cook it a little bit. At this point, once you put the flour in, and whether you're doing this in a pan or in a pot, the method will still be the same. But I'm going to stir that around. That's gonna make my gravy thick. And this is called a roux. Put a little bit more in there. Okay. And now that I turn that down, it's gonna, you want to keep an eye on it. Put a little bit more in there, because it's about 50-50 on the amount of butter to flour. So you can see I put half the amount of butter, so I'm gonna put half the amount of flour. Just stir that, but still letting it cook, because you don't want your gravy to taste like flour. This is how we normally do it in the restaurant, and also how I do it at home. But a pot also will work. All right. Okay, so you got that wing in there, all that good stuff. You cooked out your flour. Now, I have my hot stuff. I'm a mess. Awesome. I'm going to turn that off and we're going to strain it into a pot. Put all that in. That pot on the side. And my strainer. Towel. They never said cooking Thanksgiving wasn't messy. Thank you, Carol.
You're welcome.
You always have to have a sous chef. You have to enlist help. Number 2 on the checklist. There's always something you can't do alone. So if you have a regular strainer, this is what we use in a restaurant. It's called a chinois, but you can use a regular strainer. That'll work. You're just trying to make sure you don't get out the big chunks. Okay? Side. We're going to put that off to the side, and we are going to finish our gravy. I'm going to take my herbs. I got my bay leaf in there. I'm going to take some herbs here. That's the sage, rosemary, thyme, and parsley. Put that in there. And then that's ready to go. Right on the back burner you put it.
Oh, amazing.
Very easy. And that. Okay, does anyone have any questions on the turkey time? Nope. Okay, perfect. Carolyn, you always stump me with your questions.
I know. Well, you haven't gotten there yet, so I have the question. I gotta wait.
So now that the turkey is finished, I'm going to set it off to the side, and I'm going to start with the stuffing. I personally don't stuff the turkey because I like to do things different on the side, but if you stuff it and your family has stuffed it for years, that's acceptable. But for me, I like to make it separate, which I learned today is called dressing if it's not in the turkey. Then it's
But we think it's just Delaware.
But it might be just a Delaware thing. So we are going to get started with our sourdough and mushroom dressing.
And then
What types of breads
can you use to make it? Sure. What kind of breads are you using?
bread? On this one, I'm using sourdough bread, but for other ones I use at home is challah bread, and you can use brioche bread, or if they have some extra day-old bread in the bakery section, great bread, Italian loaves, anything. And I just kind of pair with what I find. Like 2 years ago, I found some really nice challah bread, and I made an apple and walnut challah stuffing, and that was amazing. So every year I kind of like to change it up, do a little something different. And cornbread, I did one of those one year, and that was fun. So, okay, so I'm gonna start here.
So you use cornbread to make stuffing?
Yeah, if you take cornbread and you cook it, and then you like take it and make it into croutons almost, and then dry it out, you can make cornbread stuffing. But you want to mix it with another bread.
Yes.
Okay, so here for this recipe, what I have is the sourdough, which has been drying out for 2 days. I don't know if you can hear that. So that is dried out. Also, I have a nice mixture of mushrooms, some oyster mushrooms, shiitake mushrooms, and cremini mushrooms here. Butter, celery, celery, onions. There's no carrots. That's just automatic in my head. I say that. And then the same mixture is the parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. It's the perfect seasoning that goes with poultry. And which I noticed on my recipe card that I did not have is eggs. So if you could guys just write down 3 eggs, I do apologize, but 3 eggs go in this recipe.
Carolyn, can you just use regular mushrooms, or do you have to have a set?
You can use regular mushrooms if you can find button mushrooms or anything like that. You can just use regular mushrooms. But for me, I love oyster mushrooms and large shiitakes. They all kind of have their own individual flavor, so adding them all together is delicious. So for the first thing we want to do for this recipe is we want to, other than dry out the bread and cut everything, which you can do it a day ahead of time. You can actually make this recipe a day ahead of time. Is we're going to cook the mushrooms and the celery and the onions. And then we're going to cook those with butter and then add the chicken stuff.
She doesn't even know who
Okay,
are
so
you?
I have the butter here. It's going to go in the pan along with the mushrooms. It says on the recipe 2 pounds, 1 pound. If you want to add 4 pounds, just add a little bit more butter and chicken stock. This is a standard ratio. If you want to do something a little different, you can. If you want to add sausage to this, sausage, mushrooms, and sourdough is a great combination. But
There's a difference.
okay, so in the pan, I have the butter and the mushrooms. I'm going to actually save this pan to put the stuff in there. So, celery and the eggs, so we also need a big bowl to mix it all up.
Carolyn, do you know the difference between do you know what a dry dressing is, or a dry stuffing is?
Dry, how do you fix the dry dressing? If your dressing ends up dry, how do you fix it?
Oh, good question. So if, thank you. So if your dressing ends up dry, then what you want to do is melt some butter with some chicken stock, and then you can put it into it. So if you make your dressing the day before, and you want to, check it before you put it in the oven and make sure it's not dry, because sometimes it really absorbs all that liquid, is look at it, put some more chicken stock or turkey stock and some melted butter in there, and it'll be perfect. Because this is one of those things that you definitely have done ahead of time, is the stuffing. It'll be very easy to have done. And here we have
Oh,
our
let me
butter,
drink.
our gravy, our butter, and our mushrooms are cooking. And like everything, we have to season every step of the way. And my salt, pepper, nice big pinch. Really cook. And mushrooms are so full of water, it's almost impossible to burn them. So you can have them on high heat, and they're just going to slowly cook. And then since I put the salt on them, they're actually going to ooze more of their water, or I guess their water is going to come out a little bit, so it'll be perfect.
How do you know when a mushroom's done?
That's all up to your preference. So I like crispy mushrooms for this, and for this we don't need them that crispy. We just wanted them to cook down a little bit before we add the celery and the onions.
Are these the sides?
And we're gonna bake it for about 45 minutes in the oven. I'm gonna add the celery, the onions. I don't know my vegetables. And then we have our celery. And you know me, I'm gonna add more butter. And then I'm gonna turn it down. When I go shopping for Thanksgiving, I think I have about 6 pounds of butter in my cart. And whether I use all 6 pounds, it's usually I do, but I'm gonna tell you, I use a ton of butter. And then onions, I don't just go and buy like a couple onions, I always buy the bag of onions and the bags of potatoes, because by the time I'm done, it's like, it's surprising how much butter goes into Thanksgiving. So if you're trying to be on a diet, this is not the recipe packet for you.
It's only
And
one.
that always starts after the holidays, right?
One day to splurge.
Yes. So that's just gonna cook away. We have the butter in there, the celery, the onions, and the mushrooms. Like I said, if you wanted to add sausage to this, or any kind of nuts, or fruit, like apples would be good with this. If you want to do that, you would add that to the stage so you can cook it and sweat it. That's where more of the flavors come out. If you just took the diced stuff and mixed it with the bread and added everything cold and didn't cook it first, you wouldn't get as much flavor from all of the ingredients. Okay, so that's cooking away.
What temperature does that cook on?
It's about a medium heat right now because I don't want to burn it. So I'm going to put the herbs in there so they kind of get some aromatics to it. I use a ton of fresh herbs for Thanksgiving. So if you're going to go to Harry's Cedar, try to fresh herbs, I probably bought all them out because they make the dish. They add the freshness to it. And Harris Teeter does have the best mushrooms around. They have more of a selection. So that's cooking with our herbs, and I'm going to put in our stock. Our stock's going in.
Should stay closer.
Get our stock hot. Oh yeah. Now we turn that back up.
Carolyn, is there like an untraditional Thanksgiving that you could think of that if people don't eat turkey or anything like that, that, you know, maybe it's not another option for them?
Other than turkey?
Yeah.
Well, some people do ham. You know, a lot of people do
Some
ham
people
and
don't
turkey.
eat turkey.
Some people do prime ribs or tenderloins.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some people have the beef. Or if you're having just a smaller affair this year, might get a little chicken. You know? And then, you know, you always have the Italians that eat the lasagna. So, but for me, I'm traditionalist. I just make sure that everything is fresh, as the techniques are right when cooking, and you know, I might go a little crazy now and then with a dressing or a stuffing that's a little different, but everything else, I'm going to make a cranberry sauce. I'm going to make a regular turkey, and the green bean casserole that we're going to do next is going to be awesome. If you don't make it from scratch, you will from now.
So I have another throw you off question.
Yes.
What about a vegan meal?
Oh,
What if you're a vegan?
they
You
have
have
tofurkey now.
oh, they tofu. What is it called?
Tofurkey.
Tofurkey?
Yeah, tofu turkey.
Tofu turkey.
Yeah, my one of my family members was vegetarian for Thanksgiving one year, and we made that.
Holy moly!
No, I still made other turkey, but we still have a little something.
It's called tofu turkey.
Tofurkey.
Something
In the
interesting.
first section. Okay, so I have my dried out breadcrumbs here. My dish, my eggs. Put my liquid in there. Stir that up a bit. Put my eggs in. All right. Let me get the paper to stir. Okay. mix that up. I'm gonna put a little bit more salt in here because if you're buying the stock, the turkey stock from the store, always get low sodium. So then you have more control of your seasoning, along with unsalted butter. Very important. So you can see that might have looked like a lot of liquid, but right now that just soaked, that dried bread soaked it all up. Just soaked that all up. So from here, it's well mixed. Got all of our herbs in there. It smells so good. Gonna put this in. Oh yeah. Does that look okay? So there's our stuffing. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cover it, and then we're gonna bake it for 45 minutes. So it's all nice and crispy, and until it's done, and then we're gonna take off the cover for another 20 minutes, and so the top can get crispy. And right in that it goes. And
Wait, turn TV magic. Go ahead, go.
Okay, and then we have, by the time it's done, and we take off our cover. And this is what it should look like. You got a nice brown crust on the outside. It's so moist. And the mushrooms. So, and that's one of those things, like I said, you can make the day before. And then when you're ready and the turkey's out, and you just put it right in the oven, make sure it's not dry. And there you go. The key with this is the butter. Lots of butter. Right?
Oh, Carolyn, what's the best way to reheat cold turkey?
Reheat cold turkey,
Uh-huh.
hot gravy.
Hot gravy.
Hot gravy. Also, if you'd like, you can put a little bit of turkey stock on it and then put it in the oven. Oh, sorry. We're gonna go on to the next. We're gonna go on to the next recipe. I have a much bigger space to work with today as opposed to my kitchen, so if I keep leaving the shot, I do apologize. So our next recipe that we are going to do is we are going to be making the green bean casserole. I figured out of all the recipes in the packet, wanted to give a couple of good ones that probably you'll make and some people don't make from scratch, but this one is a lot of fun and it will beat the Campbell's cream of mushroom soup, I'm telling you. Like my TV magic, I have everything magically weighed out. Okay, so for this recipe, what you'll need, very important, the French's onions. Can't go wrong with those. I have the green beans. I use fresh green beans. They make it so much better. My sister will tell you differently. But so what I have here is the fresh green beans, butter, bacon, onions, garlic, lots of Parmesan cheese. You can substitute that for white cheddar or any other cheese that you'd like. And then I have mushrooms. And I know you're probably thinking the theme of this is mushrooms, but it's just traditional in this, but not as traditional in this stuff. So we are going to take our pot, and we are going to start our bacon. If you want to put more than what the recipe says of bacon, that is totally okay, because bacon makes everything better. So we're going to start that in a dry pot. That's going to take a little bit to cook down because we want to render that fat a little bit. So that's going to work on rendering the fat. And like the mushrooms before, I have the same ones. I have some oyster mushrooms, the shiitake mushrooms. I just cut them a little smaller. So they'll melt right in. And what we're doing here is we're actually making the soup that's gonna be tossed with the green beans, but we're adding some more ingredients too. Just the can of cream and honey.
Right.
No bacon. Yum. Gonna keep that on a medium-low heat so it has time to slowly render and not burn. And then we'll have all of our other ingredients. So that is going to take a minute or two while that heats up.
Can you take a sip of your wine?
But
While you're waiting.
Carol. So also in the recipe, I have the half and half and chicken stock or turkey stock here that I just mixed together. And in this recipe again, we will be making a roux. We're going to use some of the fat from the bacon to make the roux that thickens the soup. And if you'd like to use canned green beans, you can. But for these green beans, what I did was I just cut them in half and then I blanched and shocked them. So I put them in boiling water for about 5 minutes and then I took them out and put them in an ice bath. That is going to take their color, make sure that they're really green, and it helps it cook properly as well. You can use raw green beans if you like, but these will help, create consistency in your product.
Why wouldn't you want to use frozen ones?
But you could, that's a great question. You can use frozen ones, but if you use the frozen ones, you want to make sure that they are thawed out properly and that you strain the liquid in there. If you thaw them out and you have a lot of water or you use frozen ones, they're going to make your product very watery. So you can thicken your soup as much as you like, but once you cook a frozen bean, it's just going to leak out all that water. So that's a great question. But definitely every Thanksgiving, I make 2 green bean casseroles, one of these, and then one for my sister, who still likes canned green beans and cream and mushroom soup. So, you have to just, sometimes bite the bullet and say, okay. So I always make 2. She's thankful though. So I have then my mushrooms, my bacon cooking. I'm gonna put in the onions, and with the onions was minced garlic. Stir that up a little bit.
Onions and garlic. I'm sorry.
Onions, garlic, bacon, all in there, and it's minced garlic. I put them right on top. Keep it down, and once you smell this, once it's cooking in your kitchen, I don't know, it smells the turkey or bacon, onions, and garlic. Smells so good. So that's just gonna cook away. You can stay here if you want, Carol.
I know, I feel like I'm in your way. I'm sorry. And while you're waiting, you can have a sip of wine.
But this is a great recipe to use if you want to add other things to the soup or the green bean casserole. More bacon, of course, or if you want to add something else, more onions, you can do that. But pretty much it's simple, but you're making it with fresh ingredients as opposed to a can.
So Carolyn, after you're done, all is said and done. So Thanksgiving is your favorite holiday, but what's your favorite dish of Thanksgiving? So you're done cooking, everything's said and done because you're the one that's cooking Thanksgiving dinner. So you finally get to sit. So you finally get to sit down and eat. What is that one thing that you are really looking for?
The rosé.
Okay. Food.
It's funny because the whole time when you're cooking, I feel like eat so much as I go, and it's, by the time you sit down, you're almost full. And, I have a small plate. That's when everybody has this big plate. But the pumpkin pie, I'm telling you, I love the pumpkin pie. Okay, that's cooking away really nicely. I'm gonna add in the mushrooms. This is gonna be a minute while they sweat. And like everything, the salt and pepper. Good pinch. I always keep, even at home, I keep my salt and I use kosher salt, but I keep the salt in a small dish so I can just grab it. I feel like it's easier to kind of judge whether that's a chef thing, but I'm not really a big fan of the shakers. So like you can control what you're putting in more with your fingers. But like everything, you want to season as you go. And since I have the bacon rendered out and that fat, we're still gonna put a little bit, we're gonna put the more fat in there now. And like I said, this is not a diet recipe.
Oh.
Lots of butter. Okay. I have to go to Costco to get the butter. Okay, so that's gonna melt down, all that's gonna cook really nicely. And this is gonna be the base to our soup.
How long does that usually take to cook? Just until the mushrooms are done? Or?
Yeah, until the mushrooms are done, the bacon's rendered out, and you're gonna bake it again for 45 minutes. So the most important thing is that the bacon is rendered out. And because the mushrooms are still gonna continue to cook in the casserole dish. And this is another great recipe that you do beforehand. You have this ready to go the night before, you pull the turkey out, and it's super easy. Then again, you're spending the whole night before cooking, but when everybody's in, or you have people coming over, and you're hanging out in the living room, and you're not in the kitchen the whole time, and your family is there. So we have the butter melted. The bacon's rendered, the mushrooms are cooked. It's really the important thing. You turn it up a little bit. I'm gonna put in my flour. This is a sanche, or we're gonna basically bake our roux. Cook that a little bit, the same principles apply. You don't want a floury gravy or a floury soup, so you just want to cook the flour taste out.
Mm-hmm.
That smells so good. Then we have our stock. Can you see that?
Yeah, if you tilt it. That's,
Yeah.
I mean, I could go up if you need to.
Perfect. So you see that flour kind of sucked in the butter. Turn it down, and we're gonna make our pour it a little bit at a time and stir it. Pour it a little bit more, and like I said, this is a half and half mixed with the chicken stock. Okay, then more. I put it in stages, so as I stir it, it doesn't become very lumpy. Yum. Then next, we have our, that's cooked. Next, we're going to put in our Parmesan cheese. It's about a half a cup. I'm going to save some to put on top. Oh, why not? A little bit more. Nothing wrong with cheese. it's a very easy recipe. As you do it, you're making the soup and you're just mixing it together. You just have a little bit more stuff in the soup.
So Carolyn, while we're waiting for this, I have another, of course, I have more questions, but so all of your recipes seem to have a different kind of flair to them. Where did you, how did you come up with them? How did you, with this green bean casserole or the stuffing, what made you want to do a different twist on those type of things?
I think every year when I make it, I have to do it a little differently. So the first year when I made stuffing, well, the first year that I was off for Thanksgiving, it's actually the first year I worked in Peninsula, which was about, what was it, almost 6 years ago now. So that time, because most of the other place I worked, we had Thanksgiving. So since then, I've tried a different thing every time. But this has been a traditional green bean casserole for me that I learned from one of my chefs at the Biltmore Estate in North Carolina when we were doing a ton of Thanksgiving banquets. So this is one thing that he taught me, and he also said, the more bacon, the better. So I said, okay, chef. So now that we have our soup done and it's nice and thick, we're just gonna put that in there. Toss that around. You want to make sure that your green beans are very, very dry.
How do you make them dry?
Well, once you blanch and shock them, you just want to put them on a towel, because if you have a lot of water in here, it's just going to make everything watered down. So, I'm sorry. Okay. Then we have our casserole dish. So we're going to put them in the casserole dish. Also, a big tip is when you're cooking the green beans and you're blanching and shocking the green beans, make sure the water that you're using has a lot of salt in it when you're cooking the green beans, because it's going to add the saltiness to the green bean. So you want it to taste like the ocean, the water. Just like when you're cooking pasta, it's the same thing. So I'm going to put more cheese on top. Like I said, you can switch out Parmesan for another cheese if you'd like. A good melting cheese, though, like a cheddar. Mozzarella works too. A Gruyere, a Swiss. That one's a good one. So I'm going to put the French's onion on there, very important.
You go, stop.
Okay, and then more Parmesan. Yeah. And then you cover it and you cook for about 30 minutes covered, and then about 10 more uncovered. Okay. Now we're going our oven with our
People are saying how much it looks so delicious.
What?
People are saying that it looks so delicious.
It is. Well, let me show you what it looks like at the end. At the end, this will be your finished product. So the Parmesan will melt nicely. You can see that the bubbling of the soup there, and you just get a little bit of more brown on the onions, and they will just have more flavor from sitting in the bag, making them hot. So that will be that. Any other questions, Carol?
So I do have a question about one thing that we aren't going over today are mashed potatoes. Oh, somebody, oven temperature, whatever, sorry.
350.
Sorry. So mashed potatoes, everybody does it so differently, and I learned a little secret today, which I didn't know, but again, if anybody has heard me talk on these, is that I don't cook. So can you talk a little bit how you do your mashed potatoes and the reasons why you do it certain ways? And
Definitely.
because I was really intrigued by it because I had no idea.
Yes. So for my mashed potatoes, first I'm gonna grab the root beer carrots, and while they're cooking, can we talk mashed potatoes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Sorry.
Okay, so root beer carrots. Yay. If you haven't made them for your family, this will be a recipe that everybody will ask for years. Because I made them the first year, and now I have to make them every year. So what I have here are carrots. I just took the big horse carrots and I cut them in an oblique cut. You can get the baby carrots, ones that are peeled, that the ones that you snack on with your hummus, or you can get the heirloom carrots as well, the long skinny ones. But either way, carrots are carrots. So I'm going to put the carrots in a saute pan, about 2 pounds, and this is a very easy recipe because you basically set it and forget it. Actually, I'm sorry, I lied. I did that wrong. First, you want to melt the sugar. I'm sorry. You want to melt the sugar, brown sugar, with your root beer and water. A little bit of water is in there.
And that's just equal parts?
No, there's more root beer, just a splash of water.
Okay.
Okay, and then you want to put in your herbs and your salt. So I have thyme in there. I have cumin, which really adds like cumin and root beer. I would have never figured, but it works really well. A little clove and cinnamon. So it has a little bit of a Indian flair to it. So I'm gonna let those melt. We're just gonna melt that a little bit, and then we throw in the carrots. That's it. And they're very easy. It can be that last minute dish that's will set you apart.
How'd you come up with this recipe?
It was kind of trial and error. I did it with I started adding the cumin. I always did the cinnamon. I don't know, it always just comes.
So naturally.
Well, I don't know. Somebody said root beer glazed carrots went in a restaurant, and so we did it. And then you just add different things. The clove I saw in another recipe. I never thought about clove, but then I saw it in another recipe. So I said, why not? So basically, you just want to melt the sugar, and you want to add in your carrots. And then you're just gonna let that sit, and
She might do cranberries and then that's it.
and then cook them until they're soft. That's it. And then I'll always finish them with more butter. So while they're cooking, let's talk potatoes. Right, yeah. Well, okay, so in your packet there, I have a recipe for my grandmother's mashed potatoes. And this recipe, my whole family was trying to figure out. And my grandmother would tell, or my oma, she would tell everybody a different secret ingredient. And some people, she said, I put the sour cream to, or I put parsnips in, or she told my dad that she put nutmeg in them. So each kind of person would make it, and it would turn out a little differently, but never the same. So my grandmother, because I'm a chef, she's like, I'm going to give you the recipe. So she did, and every year I make that same recipe, and it's the parsnips and the sour cream, but the parsnips, if you put them in a mashed potato, people will be like, that's different, but it's still really good. You don't put as many as the potato, but when you cook it, you cut them the same size as the potato, and then you cook it with the potatoes. And then when you go mash it up, it just adds a little bit of like a different taste to a regular old mashed potato. And then nutmeg, I think, is a Holland thing that they put it in there.
And what about
So-
cooking or cutting the potato? Because I always cut my potatoes really, really small, but I learned today not to do that.
Yes, the larger you keep your potato, is the less water is gonna be in your mashed potatoes. So if you want to cut them just straight in half, as opposed to cutting them in smaller pieces. And when you drain them and you put in the milk and butter, you want to make sure the milk and butter is hot when you put it in the hot mashed potatoes, so they kind of meld together as opposed to making the potatoes seize up. So I always put my milk and butter in a small little pot and just get it hot and then pour it in and then smash it up.
Right? I didn't have any idea about that. She's telling me about it.
Yeah. It's, that makes a big difference. Or after you strain them, drying them out a little bit will make a big difference. You just put them in the bottom of the pan. And then putting everything in the pot at once is really important, because if you put everything in and then you forget about the salt and pepper, then you're mixing it more. And the more you mix a potato, the waxier it gets, and then it's just not good. Then you gotta put more gravy on it.
Is there a certain type of potato that's better than others? Is there?
I personally like creamer potatoes, but Idaho's work just as well. Redskins will work too, and then those ones you don't have to peel, so that's a benefit. But I always go for a creamer potato, which are the golden outside ones. Yeah, but Idaho's are just good. Like, that's what we use here in the restaurant. We use Idaho's when we do mashed potatoes. So, and then we just add lots more butter. So that's yeah. So also in the recipe packet, as those cook away, so good. We have the cranberry sauce recipe, and your kit there, which I hope you're enjoying your cheese, or you're probably already finished with your cheese and your cookies. But in there is a little mason jar of the cranberry sauce. So this is just our standard cranberry sauce that we make, and it's, has some citrus to it, cranberries, lots of sugar, and just gives you the recipe on how to make it. And this one actually is a recipe that is still here from Robert, and we're going to continue to make the same recipe over and over again. So we really enjoy it, and it's perfect balance of sweet and tart and great with turkey.
Is there a certain way that you can make your cranberry sauce not watery? Was there a certain?
I like fresh cranberries.
Okay.
I think fresh cranberries helps, and you can buy them in the bag. Or if you can't get the fresh ones and they're all out, then go with the frozen ones. Just don't ever get the can, unless you like the can.
But don't do it.
My sister also likes the can. She's a can, but I don't even know. So other than that, in your packet, you have a lot of great information. We put some other recipes in there for you, like the brining recipe and the carrot recipe, which we just went over, and a really popular soup that we have here that I'd like to share the recipe for is a pumpkin mushroom soup. We're not going to go over that today, but it's a nice fall warm soup. But at the end of this all, and you don't want to make any of this, or you want us to help you in any sort of way, you want us to supply a cheese board, or have some strawberries dipped in chocolate, or our really amazing jumbo shrimp cocktail, we can do that for you. I attach the catering to the packet if you'd like some help, or if you want to get a fresh turkey breast from us, we added that as well, because we heard the high demand for people just wanting the turkey breast, and we're going to brine the turkey breast, but it won't become raw. So it just will, hopefully a one-stop shop, and we do make the pies here fresh in-house. So if you'd like us to help you, just reach out. Wendy's information is at the bottom of there. And yeah, if you need assistance, we are here for you. So I hope everyone learned everything. Our carrots are going to cook away here. So they're going to take about 10 minutes to just get soft in there. I don't know if well, once you cook it, you can smell this. You can smell the root beer, the cumin, and then the clove in there. It's really beautiful. And as that's gonna reduce with that sugar and just glaze over. So does anybody have any questions from the audience? Because we are going to be eating Thanksgiving. And like I said, this is my favorite holiday. Any one of these recipes, as long as any one of the recipes in there, you can change, you can modify for yourself. You have the basic cooking techniques now, so you can just really, add some crazy stuff in there. And, you never know. The cumin might work with the carrots and you wouldn't know until you just put it in and tried it out. So I'm going to take the turkey and we are going to go out to the table.
Can I just quickly just say, thank you everyone, and we all, appreciate all of your support during these times. Happy holidays, from everyone here at the Food and Beverage team. And please let us know if you guys need anything during this time. But we are so looking forward to Thanksgiving. That's our excitement this year.
So we're going to go out to the table and see our guest.
Who's there? I want to know who's there.
We're going to go this way. We didn't want to go this way. Sorry. This is what the back of the kitchen looks like. Sorry right now.
It's the back of the kitchen.
It's just us.
All the magic happens.
Oh, look.
Look at our guest.
Donna.
We have Donna and Paul here enjoying our Thanksgiving dinner. Donna, what are you drinking tonight with our Thanksgiving?
Well, what we have here is a 2018 Trefethen Dry Riesling. And this is Trefethen, of course, is Napa Valley. This is going to go great with the turkey, so we're looking forward to it. It's very fruit forward, a lot of grapefruit, a lot of green apple. And we do have this here in our fine wine library, and it is $32 a bottle. And then,
Okay.
with our dessert, probably a little bit later, we also have Trefethen Dragon's Tooth. This is a 2016, and this is a very nice, spicy, a lot of pepper, a lot of dark plum. And we do carry this here, and this is $129 a bottle.
So again, everyone, happy Thanksgiving from everybody here at the Peninsula and the Clubhouse. We look forward to seeing everybody here.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Motion detected.
Walt, it's hello everybody. You still with us here?
Everybody's still here.
Okay, just a couple of quick announcements. One, be on the lookout for the what I hope will now be an annual event, the our Tech Club Holiday Gift Gadget event, which we did last year. We're going to do it virtual this year. We've got some really amazing gifts, and everything we picked out are things you don't have to go to stores for. You can just go right online. So be on the lookout for the notice. Within the next couple of weeks, we will be holding that event.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for coming. Just a note that this is being recorded. When it's ready, Eileen Walling will be posting it. So we apologize to those of you that had problems getting in or got in late, but as I said, it is being recorded so you can view what you missed. So thank you again.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, thank you.